And I'm like, look at the size of your arms, mate. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, you can do better than us. Like, oh mate, I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Welcome to another edition. Not sure how many numbers we're up to now, but
So number 7.
it's number 7. There we are.
-3 that we didn't record.
Exactly. 7 minus 3, and we're allowed.
Welcome to Desert Diaries.
Welcome to Desert Diaries. Today we often before we sit down or get together, we're all like, well, what are we going to talk about? Let's try to think about something interesting. And I usually come at some really shit thing, like, let's talk about hobbies. And then Chris says, oh, hobbies are so boring. We're like, okay, well, what should we do then? So today we thought we'd talk about. Well, we thought we'd talk about death. And
It was literally, hobbies was in discussion, but we kind of think that it will be more interesting if we don't only talk about stuff that's happening, but also about things that we think about things. And in this case, death is like, unfortunately, something that right now has affected your life.
Yep.
Your aunt passed away.
Yes, so my aunt, Auntie June, she literally passed away yesterday. Unfortunately, liver cancer, right shit. And yeah, it just happened. I mean, literally just happened. So it's something that's at the forefront of my mind. And don't worry, there's no breakdown going to happen here. But I was thinking, like, what can we talk about? And sometimes when something has just happened, it brings up all these thoughts and questions in your mind about your own mortality and like, what are you doing or what am I doing with my life? And then that, it kind of just brought it home a little bit.
Like, what were your thoughts that you had about that?
Well, I think one of the things, and this is someone said this to me a long time ago, is that if you look at a parent, mother, father, whatever, and you go, okay, how long do you think they're going to live for? And let's say, okay, they're a certain age and they've got, I don't know, 20 years left. And then you think, how much time are you going to spend with them every year? And you say, okay, well, I live in Dubai. I probably go home maybe 3 times a year. So let's say they've got 20 years left or 10 years left. And in my case, my mother's 85. All right, so 10 years is hopefully. But if I go home, God, I haven't been home in 2 years. I haven't seen her in two and a half years. So let's say you've got 10 years and I go home twice a year for the next 10 years. I'm only going to see her 20 more times. That's it.
Yeah, and that's so crazy to imagine because we often completely forget that there is a limit to all of this. And I think this limit actually can also empower you because I did recognize the other day, I was like, sat in the car feeling absolutely miserable about life. I was just like, oh, everything sucks. I'm in a bad mood. And then you just come up with even more shittier thoughts.
Yeah.
And after an hour of sitting in the car like that, I was like, what was the benefit for me now to having shitty thoughts for an entire hour?
Yeah.
And sometimes you have shitty thoughts for an entire day. And that day is not going to come back. So you just wasted a full day on things that you created in your mind. There's obviously things happening which are actually sad, like in your case. And then sometimes you're just making it a bad day for absolutely no reason and completely not appreciating the fact that you have this life and you can actually make every day the best day, or at least feel the best about whatever happens.
Yeah. And you're right. And it's, like Pfizer said to me this morning, obviously, when I gave it, and I actually found out at 2:00 this morning, and my brother-in-law texted me, and I literally got out of bed, left her sleeping, came down, had a cup of tea, and just sort of sat down here for a minute, and so I'm a bit knackered today, but and then I went up, and then this morning Pfizer was like, oh, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'm going to do the same as I normally do. It's sad, and I can totally be sad. That's totally normal, but being sad doesn't change, what I need to do because I still got to do it. And maybe that's a bit harsh, maybe it's a tough way to look at it, but almost like sometimes we have those moments where we're sitting in the car and we're like, Christ, my life is shit. Like, I haven't done this or I haven't done that. But you have to like drag yourself out of that because no one else is going to drag you out of it.
Yeah.
And you know, another thing we talked about, and both of us are heavily into like self-motivation and trying to find more holistic ways perhaps of bettering ourselves. But I think the biggest one has always been no one's getting out of this alive, and like the only person that's actually going to really help you is yourself.
And it makes things look so small, because sometimes you're like overthinking small things. You're like, oh, if I call this person, is this still considered to be a cold call, which can cost me like 12,000 euros?
Yeah.
And you keep on overthinking small things like that all of the time, but actually just fucking go for it.
Look how jacked you look, by the way, Chris. I'm not being funny. He's been working out quite a lot, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, look at the size of your arms, mate.
You know what it is?
What?
It's just this fucking tiny ass.
You bought an extra small.
like it literally, like I could, like now that I have lost quite a lot of fat, I can wear it again. But before, like for the last year, I couldn't wear it, because it was just like over here, like I couldn't really breathe, you know, and I was always scared that like I breathe in too heavily, and I was just gonna pop.
No, you're looking really good. Not in a, like, you know, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. Look good, mate. It's good. Actually, because we go to Nepal on Friday, right? And it's where we're going is -2.
Yeah.
So we were like, I need to get some thermals. So Pfizer ordered me these thermals. Smelly got off Amazon, and she's measuring my chest and all this. Turns out I'm an obscene size for ordering stuff off Amazon. So my chest is 46, right? Which is an extra large on Amazon.
Really?
Yeah. So we ordered this stuff. And it came, and I swear to God, it's like this big, the trousers.
I'm trying to save up some money by shopping in the kids department.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Extra large for a 12-year-old.
So obese 12-year-old, that's exactly.
But so we got this, and I put it on last night, and it literally looks like a leotard. It's tiny, but it fits, because it stretches, but it's like... So it's all like, it looks like I got a little kid. Anyway, yeah, so that's that.
So you're going to be walking around like one of those guys from the Blue Man Group.
Yeah. But I'll be warm, and that's the main thing. So yes, we're off on Friday, and Chris is helping me out a lot while I'm away, which is good, because I'm not going to be here for...
What are you actually going to do with the dog?
Oh my God. So Ollie and Sam, they're moving here. Which is another thing he's helping me out with, because they haven't moved into their place yet. So they're going to move in here, look after Baxter while we're away, and then hopefully when they come back, they'll move into their place.
Nice.
Yeah. Or we're going to have 2 people living here for
you got them alone.
Yeah.
However, they just moved into your place.
Yeah, exactly. It's alone.
They have another apartment.
They've rented it out. They're earning 12 grand a month, living here for free.
You've given them excellent investment advice.
Yeah, exactly, the best. So Baxter, look at him looking at us. So yeah, he'll be looked after. He loves them as well. Yeah, so that'd be fine. Yeah. So anyway, back to this very morbid topic about death. I mean, the other thing, I mean, you know, Pfizer and I walking the dog this morning and chatting about things, and I said it's quite interesting, because I've only had really 2 people that have passed away in my life that I've ever, and they were grandparents, you know, so they were at an age where you kind of like, oh, okay, yes, I think my granddad was in his 90s, and I think my grandma was like 89, 90 or something. So they were at that stage where you kind of knew it was going to happen, where this was something that wasn't, you know, she was not old, and it just sort of, you know, happened within months. So I think it's weird, like I still haven't got my head around it, that, you know, you're never going to speak to that person again. And then I think, God, I'm a really shitty person, because I didn't speak to them very much anyway. And I look back, and I'm like, fuck, I haven't spoken to them in a year.
Yeah, that's the worst. Like, honestly, like one of my best friends from high school, he took his life like I think 3 or 4 years ago. And I think sometimes, like, what makes me really sad about it is that the last years we didn't really have much contact anymore, you know. And sometimes I'm like, the time that could have been spent knowing that this is going to happen at some point, or then you think like maybe you could have actually changed something, even though that's realistically not really the case. But that's when you then recognize, honestly, like you have to make use of the time you have with people, you know. And even with family members, like when you're upset with somebody, I think it's better to try to get over it.
Absolutely, yeah. And it is such a God. I'm sorry about your mate. I think male suicide is a massive issue, and it's something that is not talked about. And I think with men, like, we tend to have this whole.
Why do you think? Because I think the suicide rate for men is actually higher. Actually, two of my friends took that.
No, it's massive. Like
But why do you think it is? Especially for men.
Yeah, men between the age of 20, I think it's between the age of 18 and like 26 is higher than any other, across any other band between male and female. And I think that it's just the pressure that we put ourselves under, unfair pressure. I mean, like, Instagram, I think is as much as I love Instagram and YouTube and all of this, like, we're on YouTube now, but the whole, you look at other people's lives and most of it's not true. I mean, I know people that are posting on Instagram and they're like, oh, look at me living in the Atlantis Royal. And you're like, you don't live in the Atlantis. You live in a one-bed apartment on the marina. But, so it's all that bullshit. And people get so wrapped up in it and think, I need to be like that. And I guess if you're living perhaps...
So we're doing an excellent job in like bigging everybody up by like, showing like how normal you can be, like, you can do better than us.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what we're here to do.
You're welcome.
Public service announcement. But yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, it's just tough, isn't it? Like, guys don't talk to guys. And if you haven't got a friend group, I think genuinely... If I got really sad and shitty about something, I would tell you. I'd be like, "Can we have a chat?"
Yeah, I'd probably ignore it, but
but at least I get it out.
Good luck trying.
At least I get it out there, and that's half the battle, isn't it? Okay, well, we just had a short break there because unfortunately our dog decided to eat one of Chris's shoes. So we now, it's the most expensive podcast we've ever done. Has got to buy Chris a new pair of shoes. Okay, so let's get back to death. Yeah.
Also, I don't know if this is going to be in the podcast or if Pretty Guy is going to like completely cut this double mistake out, because not only Baxter the dog ate my favorite shoe, but
favorite shoe. Why do you have to say favorite shoe?
It was my favorite one. But also, it turns out the video camera is actually not a video camera, it is a photograph
that
camera.
Can video.
And that's why it's legally only allowed to record 4 gigabytes of video footage.
Yep.
Which inevitably is going to lead to us having to set an alarm in every 12 minutes in every single one of those podcasts.
Yes.
Yep. To make sure we actually record what we try to record.
Yes.
But we had an absolutely deep and heartfelt conversation about death, which ended up in us concluding that it was absolute gold that we just
absolute gold, and now we can't do that. So,
but in all seriousness, since it has happened before and we just said it, like, it's very hard if you already recorded something, and then you have to have that same conversation again. It was actually a genuine conversation.
It was a really good conversation.
And now, like, to be like, all right, let me re-script that whole thing that we just said.
Do you know what were we talking about? I can't even remember. I mean, this is how genius our conversations are. They just roll off, and Uncle Mick's money making thing business.
Oh yes,
his first business. That was it, wasn't it?
But that was a bit far-fetched from.
Okay, so we'll leave that. We'll put that to one side. But yeah, that was it. I think we were talking about that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's get back to the topic. So we were saying, obviously, like, oh man, I don't know what
we were saying, yeah.
So for everybody listening to this podcast, the amazing thing about it is that it's like so easygoing. Even the two people having this conversation don't remember what they just said 12 minutes ago. So you can listen to it in the car and feel absolutely no shame that you're not really listening to it, that you're on the phone.
It's just background. It's like white noise in the background, isn't it?
It's just blah, 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 sometimes loosely entertaining. sometimes just completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And everybody, you,
me, you,
everybody is gonna forget about it very soon.
Exactly, we're very forgettable. But yeah, so anyway, we were basically talking about, you know, death and like how that affects us, and we've probably covered this bit, so I don't know what we're going to talk about now. But I suppose the other thing I was going to talk about was like, you know, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what happens after? You know, is that too morbid? Do we not talk about that?
No, I think it's a good question, because actually I never think about death, like never.
I do all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I wake up, I can't sleep because I'm thinking about it.
And what do you think in that moment? Like how it feels to die? Or?
Yeah, no. And actually, not even that, you know, not scared of dying, just the fact that I don't want to die. Like, I don't want it to end. And the thought of...
Why do you not want it to end? I mean...
I quite like being alive, Chris.
No, but like, what do you think you still want to live in your life? Like, what do you want to see, experience? That if now you only had a short time to live, you really would want to do?
Go to Amsterdam.
Amsterdam?
Yeah, I've never been. I really want to go to Amsterdam. It's clear. No, I'd love to go. I'd love to travel around a lot more.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been quite fortunate. I've done a lot of stuff that I've always wanted to do. So I don't. It's not even like, oh, I wish I'd done this. I mean, I'd love to, you know, visit Egypt and travel down the Nile. But again, the things that I think that I want to do, when you actually go to do them, are nothing, you know, that like they are. But yeah, just a thought of not, you know, not the unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had some. Did we talk about experiences that we've had with death and ghosts and stuff? We haven't done that yet, have we? So I've had some real, and we won't do this. Stay tuned for the next episode. But I've had some crazy things happen to me in my life, and with a medium. Did we not talk about this?
No, we've never talked.
We've never talked about this. Do you want me to talk about it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have we got enough time? Have you got?
Yeah.
Okay, so
just try to.
I mean, this
keep
is
it within 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to go quick. So this is one of the most amazing. I must have told you about it. Okay, so when I was born, I was born with my feet turned back the wrong way. So I've got these.
That's why you got no calves.
Yes, that's why, because I had to have that muscle removed. But thank you for taking the piss out of a disabled person. But I was.
Nice, well played.
I was born with my feet turned back the wrong way, and so when I came out, obviously I was disabled, and the doctor said to my mum and dad at the time, like, you know, this is bad. You know, his feet are facing the wrong way. It's not much you can do about that. He's going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life.
Your feet were facing the wrong
Literally,
way?
It's called clubfoot. They were twisted back the wrong way. And they
you can still stand on.
No, I mean, I was
what is the condition? Like it's just twisted like this.
Yeah, literally like that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I've never heard about that.
Yeah. So they said to my mum and dad, he's going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, or there's this revolutionary surgery. The surgeon can do this, and he's basically going to splice into the tendons and stuff, remove some muscle, twist it up, blah blah blah. So my mum and dad went home that night, and my mum said, she prayed. My mum was very Catholic and prayed, and she said she was visited by an angel in her sleep, and the angel said to her, like, your son can totally do this operation. Like, do the operation, he'll survive.
Yeah.
So they went back the next day and said to the surgeon, yep, go ahead, do this operation, he's going to be okay. And my dad was like, okay, we'll take care of him, whatever, because obviously there was a heavy chance I would die, because it was a real, you know, I'm a baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, they did 3 operations.
And it needed to be done while you're still a baby.
Yeah, because it would allow me to heal. If you leave it too long, I assume that like everything gets formed a bit. Yeah. So I had 3 operations before I was 5 years old. I've had 2 on my right leg and 1 on my left. Yeah. I mean, I was in a wheelchair most of my life up until 5 years old. My mum,
I have never heard this story.
Really?
How come we need to switch on that camera and redo a podcast for me to hear all of this stuff about your life?
You know, at school you have sports day.
Yeah.
Right. So my mum was like, so I was on crutches, either in a wheelchair or on crutches, and my mum made them include me in all the races. So I would run running races on crutches and win. I'm super competitive, and I was like, that's it. My mum was like, no, who's going to do it? Like, my son is not disabled, he will do it. So anyway, I grew up like that. And a few years ago, probably about 15 years ago now, actually, the surgeon that did the operation was retiring, and they contacted me and said, would you mind taking part in a he's writing a thesis or whatever about all his work, and all of the people that he's done the surgery on are going to be in this. Would you want to be in it? I was like, okay. So I go up to London, I walk into this room, and there's like 8 doctors in there on this panel, and I walk in, and all of them, their mouths are open, like the jaw drop kind of thing. And they said to me, and I was like, oh, what's all this? And they said, you're the only one out of all of the people that he's done this surgery on that is 6 foot, that is playing sports on a regular. At the time, I was a professional tennis coach. I was playing rugby. I was boxing. I was doing all of these sort of things. And I was like, everybody else is either now permanently with a limp, in crutches, in a wheelchair. Wow. I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome, right? Anyway, so skip forward a little bit later. I end up having a bit of a bad rugby injury where I get hit really heavy, and I actually rip my urethra off my bladder. And urethra is a bit where you pee down, and I couldn't pee because the scar tissue healed on the inside. And it got so bad, I was getting rushed into hospital and all this stuff. So, but what I had to do to fix it was to have this quite invasive surgery where they cut me open and do all stuff. And before that, I wanted to try every other option. So I went to like all these holistic healers, tried acupuncture. I went to this Reiki healer. And when I was at this Reiki healer, where you're laying on the bed, and they put their hands like over your body, not touching your body, and they say, don't tell us where the pain is, we'll tell you. And he got down to where the damaged area was, and it was like he wasn't wearing a ring, but it was like I felt this laser beam into my body, and he said, right, you have to have this surgery. Like, there's nothing I can do to fix you. You need to have this blockage removed. And while I was there, he says, but if you had a twin brother, what would he be called? And I said, that's a random question. I don't know, Sam? I was like, okay. Anyway, I thought nothing more of it. And sorry, we're getting 2 minutes. I thought nothing more of it. And I go home that night, and I say to my mum, you're not going to believe what this guy said. He said, asked me if I had a twin brother, what. My mum breaks down in front of me on the floor in tears. And she says, no one else knows about this except obviously your dad and the surgeon. But the reason your legs were turned back the wrong way was because you had a twin brother. And your legs were wrapped around him with same sack. As you both grew, unfortunately, he died. And you survived. So my mum had to give birth to both of us. So my mum collapses in front of me and says, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I said, she's like, no one knows about this. It's like, I don't know how he would have known, and no one would have known. Anyway, now skip forward to just before I moved to Dubai. I'm staying with Uncle Mick, and he'd been to see this medium before. Oh, that's our 12-minute warning. He'd been to see this medium. He's quite famous, and he said, go and see him, and just for a laugh. So I go down, I drive an hour and a half, go and see this medium. He's no idea who I am. There's nothing about me on social media or anything. And he uses his connection to the other side as a guy called Michael. So he's his spiritual guide. I'm super skeptical about this, by the way. I'm like, come on, this is fucking bullshit. I sit down with him, very nice guy. Bit weird, but very nice. And he says, oh yeah, my guide here is Michael, and he wants to tell you that your grandmother's here, and she wants you to know that her dementia's gone away. And I'm thinking, okay, many people my age are going to have a grandmother that might. And I thought it's all a bit. But he starts talking about other things. Like he says, oh, I can see that in your future you're going to go out and work in real estate in the East. I'm like, okay, but that's pretty random. Like, how did he know that? But I'm thinking it could be a guess, whatever.
East of London.
Yeah, exactly. And then he says, oh, by the way, your brother Sam is here.
Oh, wow.
Right, and I'm like, what? Right, and he says, your brother Sam is here, and he just wants you to know that he's looking out for you, and he's looking, always looking out for you, and that. I'm like, okay. And then he goes on to mention some other things as well, which no one can know. So that's a couple of years ago. I got this recording on my phone. I'll show it to you another time, because I'm like, what? and then now we're going to skip back a few years. In about 2016, I moved back to the UK from America because my father's not very well. And I end up renting this 17th century farmhouse, and I'm in there living it on my own. Stupidly big place, and in the garage, I build a motorcycle workshop, and I'm doing all of this. When I come back into the property, my bedroom is upstairs. Every time I went upstairs, I got this super weird, eerie feeling. Like I just didn't feel very comfortable. And so, hold on. So it's weird feeling, being upstairs, didn't feel very comfortable. And at the time, my sister Polly was dating a guy called Paul that was actually a medium. And I mentioned it to him, and he says, okay, why don't I come over one day and we'll do a seance and we'll see what this spirit is. Bear in mind, this is 2016, all right? So this is before, yeah. Anyway, he comes over, we're sitting down, blah, blah, blah. He says to me, oh, there's this young man. All he does is just want to just looking out for you. He likes watching what you're doing. His name is Sam. It took me until a couple of years ago to realize, to make that connection, because there's so many years in between all these events. So I realized that I have my twin brother, Sam, is literally watching that over me. And my sister's ex-boyfriend at the time, he said to me, all you need to do is say, hi Sam, I hope you're doing okay, every time you come home. And I do that to this day, every single time I come home.
Over here as well.
And I never feel that weird feeling anymore.
Wow, this is crazy.
It's a crazy, crazy story. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Mental, right?
That is really crazy.
Yeah. Even when I talk about it now, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
So he's probably in the room listening.
Yeah, I hope so. So when I think about dying, all right, I know that there's something else. I just don't know what it is. It's not that I'm afraid of moving on, as in dying. I'm afraid of leaving my friends. I'm afraid of leaving Pfizer. I'm afraid of not having all of this that I love so much. That's what I don't want to lose.
I mean, that kind of depends on, obviously, also what you think is going to happen once you're dead, because maybe something even better is happening.
I hope so.
So I, like, in my opinion, like the thought of me dying and other people being really sad about it, that is, I think, what I would be more afraid of than me losing everything that is here, But what kind of motivates me about the fact that I know that life is really like limited is that, like, I always wanted to get as many things done and like have as many lives as possible in my life.
Yeah,
that sounds a bit weird, but like that's why I really have this obsession with wanting to, like, for example, work in many different places, because it makes me feel like I actually lived in that place, other than just been on a vacation, you know. And that makes it also hard for me. Like for me, honestly, whenever I watch a movie, for example, I'm like, oh wow, it would be so cool to, and then work as a lawyer in Poland. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I'm always like a bit frustrated, because I'm like, I'm not sure if this is going to happen. Yeah. But I want to continue doing different things. And that's very hard if you also want to be very successful, because then you need a focus. But in my mind, one of the things that scares me about having a family is that all of a sudden I might not be able to just like drop everything, move to Dubai and be a real estate agent, or drop everything and leave Dubai to become a surfing teacher in Bali, and I think like, but I wanted to also see how it is to be a surf instructor in Bali. Yeah, I can't surf for shit, but like, you know what I mean? Like, so I always want to do all of those things, and I have a bit of fear to lose out on things. That's why even on the micro level, every day I try to squeeze as many things in as possible, because I want to make sure I actually use that day with as many things that I want to do. Yeah. And I think something that many of the people that know me actually really like about me, or find in a way inspiring, is the fact that I've always tried to go for what I want, and like the life that I want. Like, I don't give a shit about my company like in my old jobs or whatever, where I was like, they were
loves his new job and his new company.
You can't be abroad if you work remotely. And I was like, fair enough, I don't give a shit, because I'm gonna do it anyways, because it's my life, and I'm the only one in charge of what I want to do. But yeah, that would be one thing that I would be a bit scared of, like dying and still so many things left that I haven't done.
To do,
or not having become that person that I always wanted to be, you know, because you keep on thinking, this is how I want to be. That's and then you keep on showing up for yourself in a different way. And sometimes I think like, okay, now I'm 32. At some point, some of the things that I always wanted to do and be need to happen. And right now, the path that I'm on is I want to be really excellent in something. And that's why I'm not going to stop doing that real estate thing until I feel like I really mastered it.
Yeah.
Then it's probably not going to be interesting anymore. But like for now, I want to make sure I'm being really good in this.
Yeah. And I think we're going to wrap it up in a second. But I think the thing about real estate is once you get really good at it and you become an expert in it, there's so many places it can take you. You don't just have to be in Dubai. You could be anywhere in the world. You can specialize in different areas of it. So I think you're on the right track, mate. And I said this to you the other day when we went for dinner, like, I love the fact that you do all these different things. I think it's incredibly endearing. I think it's interesting, it's exciting, and it's cool. It's cool, man. Yeah.
So let's keep on making the most of our lives.
Keep being cool. All right. So anyway, obviously we talked about a lot of heavy stuff today. Again, please go and get checked out if you haven't had a full body checkup. Please talk to someone if you're feeling depressed and don't think about suicidal thoughts. And please comment and like and share and all that good stuff.
See you next time.
See you next time.